Hashem Yahweh Elohim, Shalom Barak. Our Father's peace, blessings, and mercy be upon everyone who catches this party. Allahu Assalamu Alaikum wa Rahmatullahi wa Barakatuh. We get together at 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to discuss entrepreneurship and service in your community. We have 10 special interest groups that we speak on. Each has their own specific day. We get together Sunday through Friday. Sundays are used for Q&A, and then each day has its own specific group. Today's group is Crypto and Beyond. We've got 4 in YouTube land. Greetings to you all. Yonus all 88. Hashem Yahweh Elohim Shalom Barak. Allahu Assalamu Alaikum wa Rahmatullahi wa Barakatuh. Our Father's peace, blessings, and mercy be upon you, your family, and your circle. Well, we jumped up to 19 in YouTube land. For those who are in TikTok land, I'm still being a little bit hard-headed. We are multi-streaming at the moment. However, I'm not able to really respond to you. So I thank you for showing up and listening in. If you do leave comments, I can actually see them after the fact when I go back and review the live plays in my TikTok studio. So you're welcome to leave comments and I will answer them. Area 51-9. Hashem Yahweh Elohim Shalom Barak. Allahu Assalamu Alaikum wa Rahmatullahi wa Barakatuh. Our Father's peace, blessings, and mercy be upon you, your family, and your circle. I'll tell you that before I respond to your comment. Why? Because I've been trained that I have to greet everyone with the best possible greeting, no matter how you come at me. Spreading negativity, keep it up, punk. People could get offended and take that however they want. However, I don't get offended. Most people, if you mention the name Tupac, they know about a rapper named Tupac. I know of a hip hop lyricist named Tupac who released 2 albums before the year 2000. His first album he released, I was 16 years old. And I heard someone say, never ignorant, getting goals accomplished. So I don't mind spreading negativity. That doesn't hurt my feelings at all. I've been about that life since I learned how to think, speak, and walk. Calling me Unc, I like that too. You're giving me respect, and I actually do have a nephew, so there you go. I'm standing on my square. And for anyone else who wants to affirm their square, that's what this is about. I don't always use slang terms. However, I could pull out of the dictionary from E40 at any given moment. It's just one facet of me. So thank you for tuning in, Area 51-9. We have an objective today. We always have an objective. Number 1, we're rocking and rolling. Meaning, yes, we are multi-streaming. We have a couple of platforms going right now, and there are plenty of others that will receive the message once I share out the link. We're talking about crypto and beyond today. Cryptocurrency, Web3 navigation, investing in cryptocurrency. Who do you run to? Who do you turn to? Which names? That's what we'll be talking about today. So like I said, if there's any questions or concerns, you're welcome to place them in the comment section. And as I said earlier, if you place them in the TikTok comment sections, um, if we are already um, acquainted with each other to where we can send messages, you may receive a direct message from me, or you may receive um, a tag in a video of me responding to the comment, because that's what this is. There are a lot of people out there that want to tell you they have the know-how and this is the way. I'm not here to do all of that. I'm here to tell you that I've found quite a few different avenues. And in order to actually give you all the information about it, we have to get beyond using platforms such as YouTube and TikTok and Facebook and all of that. We're supposed to go there to post and communicate with other people. However, none of these platforms are the end all be all. How many of you have your own website? If I asked you where I could find you, are you going to tell me what your name is on TikTok or what your name is on YouTube? And when I go to your profile, am I going to see a bunch of stuff that's basically you using somebody else's video and you liked it and wanted to put your little extra comment to it or whatever? Or am I going to see content where you are telling the world what goes on in your mind, your irrational form of thinking, what you are doing while walking through the standards of Yahweh Elohim? Most people, if you say something about entrepreneurship to them, the first thing that goes on in their minds is dollar signs in their eyes. How much money do you make, entrepreneur? Before you make a dollar, you have to have a code of ethics. Your code of ethics is going to determine how you deal with people. And it's also going to determine what your product is, what your service is, the quality of it. Because if you don't stand on any solid ethics, then you're not going to care what kind of service you give someone or what kind of product that you give to someone. You're just more concerned about how many ones you can add up. Question then arises, what are you willing to do throughout the day, all day, every day, and nobody comes up and hands you a piece of paper with a dead person on it? See this picture with this dead person on it? That means that this is worth X amount of gold pieces. What are you willing to do where there is nobody that's already saying, here, you line up and you do this for a few hours and I'll give you some of these printed pieces of paper? What are you willing to do all day? Each of us are born with certain talents, unique talents. You stood me in a room with 9 other people. I won't guarantee it. However, I will tell you that you're going to find a room full of all kinds of different talent. Each person has capabilities. Working at McDonald's does not showcase your talents. It shows you being a warm body in a system that's already designed that needs a human being instead of a robot, just to make some minor movements and changes that would take too much programming for a robot. Working in a department store, working in most corporations, you're not really exploring your talents. You're being exploited for your energy. Before the notion of corporations, people were skilled in their trades. Handiwork meant something because it meant that you did take materials and sew them together in order to make clothing or blankets or nets or sails for boats, rope, It takes handiwork to do those things. Yes, people have been replaced by machinery. However, the machine can only repeat what humans innovated. A machine is not going to know that you want to have three different colors in your rope. You have to feed the three different colors into the machine. It's not going to know how to make all the different intricate patterns and designs if you are following certain clans, customs, and cultures. That must be done by a person who has learned not work. Now, what's all that got to do with cryptocurrency? Most people have been taught that you can go out and invest in a certain coin because it's rising in value. Most people think of cryptocurrency the same way that you think of investing in stocks on Wall Street, NASDAQ, or the Swiss bank accounts, or the European Union accounts, or Hong Kong or Singapore. You see, these are all nations. These are all banks representing nations. So when you're investing in anything concerning those particular markets, all you're really doing is paying in on something that looks popular or trending. That's not solid. That's why most people say that cryptocurrency isn't solid because they don't see the inherent, real intrinsic value. They think it's just plastic, it's malleable, it's going to fold and change the same way that the dollar fluctuates in value, whether or not there's silver or gold to back it. However, that's not the case. Just because that's all that was presented to you doesn't mean that is all. We're going to have a freedom slave scenario moment, okay? Is how it goes. You were told you could be sneaky and travel on a northward path, get to a certain area, and another sneaky person would give you some paperwork saying that you're free. You've been free all this time because you got this paperwork. The problem with that is you're not protected. And if people decide, no, your paperwork doesn't work and we're going to treat you however we want, and we might just go on and just turn you in anyway, return you back to where you come from, meaning back to whatever plantation. Even if you were born free, still in question, and a person could easily ship you back down the river into bondage. See, that's using the Underground Railroad system. You might get freed, or you might end up dying, or you might end up being returned. Makati Mavis, it's very tabah to have you here. Hashem Yahav Elohim, Shalom Barak, Allahu Assalamu Alaikum, Wa Rahmatullahi wa Barakatuh. Father's peace, blessings, and mercy be upon you, family, and your circle. I know I sent a lot of information about cookies and cash last night. Uh, did you ever get a chance to mess around with it? If not, maybe we'll have an actual verbal conversation where we can actually talk and walk through it, just to check, because a lot of the times that's what bogs down phones. The cache and the cookies need to be cleared. All right, so that's the first part of the analogy, the Underground Railroad system that we know about. Free them slaves, right? They told you that one exists. How many times In the schools that you've attended, have they told you a person could just as easily walk west into what was known as Mexico territory? And the moment you walk into Mexico territory, you are free and you're also protected. Meaning, if a person came up trying to take you back into bondage and slavery, there were actual rangers that would stop them. They would open fire on such people. Understood, Akati. So, yeah, we might arrange something a little bit later on so we can have a person to person conversation. There was an issue with Mexico territory. It's the reason why there was the War of 1812. You hear about the Spanish American War, but they gloss over what was really going on in the War of 1812. Because right around that time was when it became illegal to ship people across the ocean for slave trade, which meant there had to be breeders' camps set up because you couldn't just go to that um, source where it just seemed a never ending population. That's what happened between 1812 and 1840, 1850. Nobody freed them slaves because they had a kind heart. The times that the slaves were freed or let go or whatever the case may be is because the governing factors were feeling pressure. They couldn't hold on to the sanctions that they were trying to impose. It wasn't shouted all across the land, go west, until later on it was adopted and it became go west, young man, and manifest destiny. Person living in Mississippi, Arkansas, Alabama, if they walked directly west, they would meet a place that is now called Texas. Person in Arkansas or Missouri going west would meet Oklahoma. There was a time when the whole southwestern region of what is known as America was also part of Mexico. California is Mexico. That's the reason why there was the Mexican War against America, not just the Spanish American War, where the Americans were trying to push the Spanish colonials out of the land. There were people who were already living there who weren't Spanish. They were Taino. Before the conquistadors, before Leif Erikson. When they start trying to tell you about how there was this great nomadic migration across the Bering Straits from Russia over to Alaska, maybe might have happened because there's these islands and there could have been an ice land bridge, which is how this side of the planet got populated because people traveled from Asia over to North America. No, there were some people that probably did travel from Asia over to North America using that land bridge. However, people were already here. People were already here on the western side just as much as they were on the eastern side. As a matter of fact, there are civilizations on the western side of the globe, of the planet, that actually date back further than what's on the eastern side. And it wasn't Leif Erikson. It wasn't whoever you want to say from Asia 300,000 years ago. There were people already here. There were civilizations, customs, cities, regions known as states and countries. There's a whole culture known as calling that area Turtle Island. There was inter-travel and commerce going on between both sides of the planet. There's no sides. There's no sides on a sphere. There's a surface. What's all that got to do with cryptocurrency? You've been told that it is a way for you to invest in what other people are doing. However, you haven't been told that you can control your own coin and have people invest in you. You haven't been told that there are networks that you can use which resemble Facebook. However, the difference is when you post something, yes, a person can like it or dislike it, whatever. They can share it out to other people. And then they can also tip your work. You have to get a certain notoriety on Facebook in order for somebody to tip whatever you post. I know because I remember when they told me that I unlocked that. People can put star gifts on my posts. Do they? No. I can go on TikTok and go live. People can tip there, and some have. I go to other people's lives and tip them. However, there's no TikTok coin for me, not my own personal coin. I can go and find out whatever cryptocurrency is used for backing TikTok. As far as, yes, they have their um, currency for whatever nation and banking system that they're using between China and America. But there's also a cryptocurrency for TikTok itself. I'm not going to invest in that any more than I would invest in Merrill Lynch because we were not put here to invest in Babylon and claim that we're coming up out of Babylon. That's double minded. Instead, I can go to the social world, post a picture, get likes, have other people share it, repost it, and then get tips. I like this. Here's a diamond tip. There's a penny. If I put up several posts, there are people who go and give what's called diamond showers. I can get anywhere from a penny, 10 cents, 25 cents per post. So if I posted 8 things and got a 25-cent tip for each one of those, there's $2 just from me posting 8 things. Instead of the diamond shower, people being impressed by that picture that I posted or that video that I posted, or actually doing a full-fledged blog, which includes a title, subsections, pictures, hypertext links that people can go visit. When I take out the time to do all of that, someone can come along and give me $10 worth of their coin here. Now, whenever they increase, I increase because I've got a part of their profit. They've given it to me. I've also got the option to sell it and go and work with something else. Shalom Akati Deborah. Hashem Yahweh Elohim, Shalom Barak, Allahu Assalamu Alaikum, wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Father's peace, blessings, and mercy be upon you, family, and your circle. It's very Tabah to have you here. So, question is, how's it going in TikTok land? How's the broadcast over there? Y'all know what time it is. First coffee of the day. We started out with that freedom slave scenario for a reason. You could travel up north and hope for a safe passage and hope that your paperwork is accepted. Oh, understood that it's quiet. I was just wondering if it's broadcasting all right. It seems to be pretty smooth in YouTube land, so just wondering what it was looking like. So yeah, you can go and get some paperwork and go up north and play by their rules. Because believe it or not, the Underground Railroad was known. The Underground Railroad was known. The slave trappers and trackers knew about all the safe places. That's why people would be sitting there hiding between walls and underground and everything else, and people still coming around looking and searching because the hound dogs led them up to that front door. The hound dogs led them around the corner, showed them where the people are supposed to be at. Okay, we've tracked the scent. It's on your premises. You know, the same thing happened last week. If this happens again, we're just going to burn everything down. That happened. So apparently, the Underground Railroad was not the best option, especially if you are willing to risk life and limb to just go walk across a border and be immediately accepted as a human being, as a productive form of society, instead of someone who is still an outcast. Because it didn't matter how you dressed yourself up and how you spoke or anything like that. When one of those rangers came up to you and said, show your paperwork, you had to show your paperwork. That's less than a man. That's less than a woman. That is less than a human being playing along with their game. So when you walk into Mexico territory, you're under a whole new type of standards. You're under the standards that were going on before the conquistadors showed up, before Columbus was lost and was in the Caribbean and knew nothing about Florida or Maryland for that matter. Before Leif Erikson ran across Greenland and Iceland. Before any of that was going on, there were already established civilizations here. And some of the people, when they left those plantations, they were walking back home to begin with, because not everybody was brought over here on a slave ship. There were people already here, and they attempted to enslave them at their loss because those people were familiar with the territory. And the saying goes with trying to capture people and then bring them across an ocean. You can't watch 100 people all at one time. So if some people are not working and they are scouting and ranging, it means that they're finding out how the lay of that land works. There was a time where we did actually walk along creeks and things like that because we knew those were routes to main sources of water. If you go upstream, you're going to find the source of the creek. More than likely, it's a tributary that goes to a larger river. If you keep following the creek, it's possible that it will lead you to a lake or another river. We knew these things. Doesn't matter what area of the planet that you're put on. Natural geography works the same way. Our problem today is most people don't know anything about the planet that we live on. You put some people outside and they are in shock after 15 minutes. Can't stand any of the elements of nature. Bugs, heat, discomfort. Let me get back inside where there's air conditioning. Let me condition my environment. Freedom slaves. So you got an option. You can go and play along with their game, or you can walk over to where all of your natural born rights are still protected. Same thing in cryptocurrency. Same thing in most elements in life. Usually, when they tell you that there's something that's been provided and it's there for everyone to access, that means if you go digging, there's another way to do that without having to jump through a bunch of hoops. When I was young, they had classes in elementary called GT, Gifted and Talented. That was later changed to students who are on a knowledge quest. When you go above and beyond what they write on the chalkboard and tell you to memorize. I was asked a question. Where'd you get all them books? I personally don't own a lot of books. I've read quite a few books. When I was 19, I spent anywhere from 6 to 8 hours in a library, 3 to 4 days out of the week. I had been working or toiling, so to speak. I'd been going to college. And then something dawned on me. I'm paying thousands of dollars for someone to tell me that they want me to write about what I think, just for them to turn around and critique it because it's not following what they think. And they're telling me to get my information from the library. Now, there's the college campus library, and then there's the library system of your town, your state. I can go into any of those library systems and look up information, and the information is going to be the same, whether it's from the college campus library or if I go to any library around town. So I'm still thinking, because even if I'm not a student on campus, I can still even go to a college library, read what I want. I just can't check out the materials or the periodicals. I'd have to have a membership to the campus. Likewise with your local library system. You've got all kinds of free access. So you walk in with your handy dandy notebook and a pen, you sit down, you open up a book, and you start reading. And you gather information. And then you take a little side note and you write the author's name, date, title, publisher's name. And when you're writing the date, you're writing the date that that particular source was printed. It's called a citation for references. We used to have to do that when we were writing papers. We had to have sources, not just so and so told me this, or I read that over there. But if you read something and you quote it, you're supposed to be able to give a citation and a reference of where you got it from. So another person can go and find the same information, and whether they're fact checking or if they're exploring for more information, they know exactly where they can go. The same way people reference the books and the chapters and verses out of the Bible, we're supposed to reference everything that we cite. You should have some way to reference the source. Otherwise, it's hard for a person to buy into what you're talking about because you're just throwing things at them. So I've never owned a library that was wall to wall bookshelves or anything like that. When I was growing up, there was a shelf on the wall made out of boards that were 1 by 6, uh, about an inch thick, 6 inches wide, two boards like that. And there would be books. There was one, two, three. There may have been 4 shelves like that in my bedroom. The lowest shelf held children's books. Excuse me, Dr. Seuss books that you could order from Highlights, stuff like that. The children's version of the Bible. The next level up, dictionaries, thesauruses, some other reference books. Now, mind you, off to the side, I had 2 complete encyclopedias in their own cases. So above the children's books and then the reference books, those were also my mom's college textbooks because she was going through college most of my life. She was always in studies. So whatever books she had, she kept them in my room. Uh, Once my brother was born and old enough, he was about 2 or 3 when we started sharing rooms. Up to then, he was 2 and we was sleeping in the crib in their room, in our parents' room. So I had that room to myself. There was a bunk bed in there because between my brother and I, his father had already had a daughter. So I had a stepsister. She's 4 years younger than me. So I was, when I was 5, I met Jenny. She was 1. Jenny would come over to visit. However, at our house, she had her own room. She would come into my room, and the bunk bed was built because they were already planning for another child to come along. Matter of fact, it was built when they found out my brother was conceived and he was a boy. Before then, I had a full size bed. That bed got moved into Jenny's room. And then I had twin beds. I had the choice of sleeping on the bottom or the top, and I always slept on the top. Just kept stuff down underneath on the bottom and declared this bunk bed is meant for me and my brother, so that's going to be his bed. No reason for me to be sleeping in it. Get used to my own bed. So I was sleeping in that top bunk. So, like I said, in that room, you got the shelves, children's books, then reference books, including college courses and all that kind of stuff. Uh, Law statutes, because my mom was also studying as a paralegal. All of that. Next shelf up, there was some more informational books, yet they weren't just textbooks or anything like that. Not a whole bunch of self-help books or anything. None of those. Um, there were some popular mechanics books because my brother's dad, he could do a few things with his hands. He could build. Like I said, he built the bunk bed with those same kind of slats with some 2 by 4s, some 1 by 6s, and some 2 by 6s. He built our bunk beds. um, drilled in the wood screws and all of that. After he built it, my mom stained it. And then on the very top shelf were the paperbacks, the novels, and just all kinds of stuff. Some of it was fantasy, fiction. Some of it was nonfiction. So this was my library up till about fourth grade. And I was introduced to the elementary school library first week of school of first grade. That's that story I told you all about. I will not disturb the class. When I had to go and visit the library at school and open that big dictionary that weighed more than me at the time, look up the word disturb, and then go back into class and write, I will not disturb the class. Because that school library had a certain setup. The bottom floor that held first through third grade classes held first through third grade subject material in its library. The classrooms weren't walled in. It was a big, giant open space, and the areas were separated by cubbies and the big wooden coat racks. But nothing was a wall all the way up to the ceiling from the floor. You could walk by one classroom and hear what's going on, stand right there and hear what's going on in the next classroom because it was just open air. That's why I wasn't supposed to disturb the class. That's why I couldn't go and sit next to the little girl and ask her, why are you so quiet? Because it was quiet time and the teacher wasn't even talking. It occurred to me that she was always quiet. You go ask her why she's quiet. Why are you so quiet? Talk all the time when the teacher asks a question, but then you don't ever talk after that. Is that all you know is just stuff from books? That's why I got in trouble. I will not disturb class. Bottom floor, first through third grade reading criteria. Next floor up, fourth through sixth grade reading criteria. In first grade, I was not concerned about the cat in the hat and hop on pop and one fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish, because I'd already gone through all of that. Those highlight books were not meant for me. They were for my sister and they were for my brother who was coming along. Jenny's 3 years older than my brother. I didn't start going to the public city library till maybe fifth or sixth grade. There wasn't one really close to the house. And because of my parents' schedules, it wasn't like I could say, hey, can y'all take me up to the library and drop me off and then come pick me up later? That was out of the question. However, I had a handy dandy BMX bike and I was hard headed. And my mom would tell me, this is your limit. Do not go past this street. You can go do whatever you want riding around the neighborhood. Just don't go past this street in this direction. Okay. So that really means I could follow along that street and turn in anytime I felt like it. No, she wasn't imagining the fact that I'm going to hop on that bike and tackle every hill I find. Because in order for us to even get to the neighborhood pool and rec center, we had to ride our bikes up and down quite a few hills just to get to the next zoned elementary school location. Now, it wasn't that far away. However, a trip for us to go and swim at the pool, that was an hour ride within itself. If we even thought about trying to get to the library, that was 3 hours. Easy. We thought we were doing something when we went past the rec center and we were at Walmart, because at Walmart they had a half pipe set up to where people could use their skateboards and their bikes to ride up and down this ramp and do tricks. And there was a movie theater there too. So we thought we were doing something if we went beyond the rec center, made it to Walmart, not really interested in Walmart because we got other stores that we get all our stuff from. We're not going in there to buy anything. We're not going into Walmart. There's a movie theater, and there's a bike ramp. The other option was to ride the exact opposite direction, and we could find dirt tracks and things like that in a major national park. And when I did that, really, I was breaking the rules because I wasn't supposed to go past a certain street. And that park was only a 5 minute ride away from that street. So as long as I stayed out of trouble, then I pretty much had free reign over half of a town, just because that's what I chose to do as far as riding around somewhere. I wasn't going to break my neck riding around, right? Fourth or fifth grade is when they started saying, well, you got to do papers that require real research. You have to go to the town library instead of trying to get things from school. We don't want you just repeating what's in the textbooks. We know the limits of the library here. We want you to get prepared because when you get to seventh grade and going into middle school and high school, they're going to expect something different out of you. I was placed in the GT program probably a day or two after I had to write I Will Not Disturb the Class. I changed the name to Quest for Knowledge. Third grade going into fourth grade. The same year I went up to Chicago and came back. Changed the program name to Quest program. Quest for Knowledge. We'll call it Quest. Not everybody was in that class. That little girl that was real quiet, she was in there. A couple others. We were basically the 2% of each class lineup. 2% of the first grade, second grade, third grade, up to sixth grade. I didn't get straight A's. They knew that I could. I didn't always turn in the work. Now, if it was an assignment and they're telling us, here you go, here's this worksheet, by the time they hand it out and I look at the top and it says, put your name and your date, and you read the directions. Well, I've already put the name and the date, and while the teacher is telling everybody the directions and explaining what's going on, I'm pretty much looking at the sheet and filling it in. By the time the teacher is finished explaining what we're supposed to do with that worksheet, I'm done. It's in front of me, pushed away, and now I'm doodling, drawing something for the rest of that time. So 15, 30 minutes later, it got to the point where the teacher would just say, TJ, I'm going out to the library. So I had been through all the books in that elementary school and had an inkling of things that I wanted to read from the things that I ran across. The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. The copy that I had came from my uncle. My uncle is 2 years older than my mom. I had a copy of The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn from 1960. Opened it up and the pages were orange and yellow and brittle. I could see notes where my uncle had written in certain things. On the inside cover, written as a gift to his younger sister. You're going to need this. because they had to take the same classes in the same school. I knew about the ventures of Huck Finn and Jim and Tom Sawyer when I was 8. When they were talking about, oh, children, we're going to tell you all a little bit about slavery and American history in social studies, and it's a sensitive subject. Well, in 3rd grade, I had already read The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, the book, straight from Mark Twain. No ifs, ands, or buts, no deletes, no politically correct anything. I knew exactly how they treated Nagaz Jim, just as much as I knew what a slave was, just as much as I knew what a sharecropper was, just as much as I knew if I went to visit my granddaddy's house, folks had been treated just like Nagaz Jim. I knew this. And I was a handful in school because of it. They wanted to teach me to think a certain way. And I refused because my granddaddy told me, do not do that. 4th grade, I have a dream speech. There was a guy in 5th grade. He was part of the top 2%. We were in that class together. The quest for knowledge. He and I shared a best friend. So you got 3 brothers who accepted each other as brothers from different households. Now, my best friend wasn't in the quest classes. And on many things, he was sharper than me. But he was quiet. He didn't show his aptitude. He didn't show indifference. He showed his acquiescence. He chose to be quiet and would talk amongst us about what was on his mind. But he didn't say anything in school. My best friend. We became best friends first day of 1st grade. We were best friends all the way up till we were 18 years old. Well, the other guy, he and I were, it wasn't a competition to me. They set it up as a competition. First, it was, we want to see who can memorize certain stanzas from the I Have a Dream speech. And the competition turned into the 4th graders were going to have to eventually battle against the 5th graders who had been learning this information. And they already knew about these freedom rioters. They knew about Harriet Tubman and MLK and Nat Turner and all that. We didn't know. We didn't know how we were supposed to react. What's this we? Right? So we were supposed to memorize the speech. I have a dream. One day on the hills of Georgia, blah, 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 da, da, da. I knew the speech. Not because it was something that was promoted in my household. Nah. MLK Jr. has respect in my household. My brother's father wasn't very much of a rebel or a revolutionary. His form of revolution was he had one of those afro picks with a fist on it, and it had metal teeth. He was rocking an afro when I met him, and that afro got turned into an S curl. Now, as far as power to the people and all of that, if you put a rifle in his hands, it wouldn't make it to his hands. It's going to drop on the ground, and he's running the other way. That he's not about that life. I'm not going to have on a black leather coat with a black beret. He was not about that life. That's why I never really bonded with him. I didn't come from such stock. He was foreign to me. So anyhow, and my mom, like I told you, she wanted to be like Angela Davis. MLK wasn't talking like Angela Davis. That's how I wound up learning about Malcolm X when I was 16. That was not because it was something I read in a history book. It was because one of my mom's friends handed me the autobiography. Said, "Here, happy birthday, TJ. Thank you. I've heard this name. Now I get to find out who he really is." It was probably 10 years before Spike Lee came with his Malcolm X movie. And I sat in the theater and I watched it, and half of the time I was shaking my head and gritting my teeth from the frustration of the story not being told all the way. You know, for one thing, it's called an autobiography, and he didn't really write all of it. It's written by Alex Haley, so it's a biography. He was telling the stories. However, he's not the one that sat down in front of the typewriter, typed the manuscript. So can't always say that even all the words in there are 100%. What Spike Lee depicted in the movie, it wasn't bad. But you already know, if you read a book, the script is never going to give the book justice. It can't, because when you're reading, you are forming the images in your mind. You're relating to the times and the places and the locations. That's why there's so much description in books and stories. They want to place you right there so you can feel it, just like you're in your own living room, just like you're sitting in your comfortable chair. And you're right across the table from Nagaz Jim and Huck Finn and Tom Sawyer. And when they walk outside, you're right in the middle of that town where they know they have to act like Nagaz Jim is their property, even though he's really looking out for them the whole time. I went searching for the books. That's part of the reason why I'm known in the streets as Schoolboy. They knew I could box. Believe me, they knew I could box. But they also knew what I was doing in school. They said, "Great, you act like a skinny Mike Tyson, but you got the brain of an attorney. No matter what it is that you do around us, there are certain things that you will not be allowed to touch, because we do not want that brain to go to ruin. We will harm you or the person who gave you poison." Yes, I have been told that. Yes, that's very real. The reason why I could find out that there's other options is because that's always been how my mind has worked. Anytime somebody tells me go do something, okay, you're relying on me comprehending what it is you want me to do, and you're also relying on me using my methods in order to get it done. That's where most people get upset, because when they tell you to do something, they're expecting you to do it the way that they do it, just so that they can approve it once it's done. Well, if you want it done your way, you do it yourself. Because when you ask me to do it, that means that you've also given up the right to micromanage. You told me to do a task. That means you trust me to accomplish it. So you don't get to come back and tell me how to do it unless you put that in the stipulations to begin with. Then when you do, I'll follow code unless it's not working for me. Then I'm going to use what I know to complete the task. What's all that got to do with cryptocurrency and Web3 and navigation and investments? Remember earlier when I was talking about writing up a true blog where you have a title and subdivisions in your text and pictures in between and a hypertext link so a person can go and see another part somewhere else with some information or even a video that they can go and watch that has something to do with what you're talking about. One of those blogs, for each type of post that I make on the social world, I can immediately turn it into an NFT. Where you thought NFTs were just some goofy pictures that people were paying way too much money for, what you don't realize is those pictures are holding contracts. They don't have to tell you what the contract is. It can be stipulated with the post of the NFT itself, or it can also be something behind the scenes, a handshake that the public does not know anything about. Here's a for instance. I recently posted a picture with an iceberg on it, floating out in the middle of the water. And there's a quote that says, entrepreneurship is like an iceberg. People can only see the storefront. Post that up on Facebook. Bing. Facebook ain't even kind enough to tell me how many people are looking at it unless I dig into the analytics and possibly buy into a premium subscription to get further news about what's going on with that. That's just to see who all looked at it. Facebook will show me that there's about 3 or 4 people that liked it. Subhanallah. Alaikum assalam. Subhanallah. Facebook won't tell me all of the analytics that I require. Facebook is not going to tell each and every person, hey, make sure that you tip this person for their efforts. I'm sure most people, when they see my post, they think that I went and got it from somewhere. No, I'm generating those. Get an idea in my mind, go to a certain site, generate the picture. Then when I move it over to Facebook, there's times where I already put the lettering in. I had forgotten to that day. So I took the picture over to Facebook with the iceberg, and then it dawned on me, oh yeah, I forgot to put the message. So I used Facebook lettering and all of that, posted up the picture, shared it out. Now, those who know me also know whenever I post a picture, it's because I'm letting you know I'm about to release a video. And this is the topic about video. There's going to be some music, there'll be a video, and there's a message all together. I do this in a pattern on purpose because I have a personal challenge that I've just now slowed up on. First thing in the day, produce a brand new instrumental using a drum kit that I've never used before on my device, tap the screen or arrange some samples a certain kind of way to make a song that is brand new, even though it might use some sounds that you've heard from other popular songs. The arrangement is brand new because it's coming from me. And most of the popular songs that are out, I have not heard because I don't even listen to the radio. So it could be something that's from the #1 charts and I wouldn't know it. I'm picking out some things that I like about it and I'm going to make a song with it. I'm not going and asking somebody else, can I use your music? I'm a musician. I'm not going and asking an artist to draw me a picture. I draw pictures. I've drawn so many pictures that now I can go to a site, upload the picture, and then tell AI to add some details. And I'm not talking about drawing a stick person and then saying, oh, make that look like an anime character. No. There are official characters who have already been drawn out and designed and have been held steady within the storyline created by me and my brothers. What's all that got to do with cryptocurrency and Web3 navigation and investments? If I post up just a picture, I can set a price on it for $1. Buy this NFT for $1. Why I'm about an NFT for $1 when I can see it for free on Facebook? Because yeah, you're just seeing it for free on Facebook. Why I'm gonna buy it for $1 when all I gotta do is hold my finger on the screen and I can download it for free? Yeah, you sure can. And you can watch me starve for free too, instead of supporting me by spending $1. I know those tactics very well because I already do things for free. The thing is, when I find other people's material, instead of me just reusing it for my own benefit, I do something that promotes what they do. Yes, I can go on Facebook on anybody's profile, download whatever picture or video that you've posted, and then repost it. That's what most people are doing on their profiles. That's why I don't attend most people's profiles to see what they have going on. Once I open it up and I look, that's what I'm looking for. Where's content that's speaking from you? What is it? What is it that you're about? What do you do? Not, oh, I like this person over here and they're so outspoken and I just want to keep on just posting up what they're talking about. No, you have a mind, you have a body, and you have a soul that needs to be heard. If you want to repost other people's stuff, you need to be saying, I take heed to these words because it's affected my life this way. I have found that we can actually be productive by using these methods. Somewhere in there, you have to put I, me. You have to have self accountability. We have been taught to walk away from self accountability. How do I know? I don't see any resumes going into my direct messages. I haven't seen any requests for what is my email. It's available. Go to my profile on TikTok. You got access to my email. You can call me if you want to. It's all there. Now, how many people actually read or listen? Because I tell you what, we've been on since March 30th, April 1st. Out of 7 months, we go through 2 weeks to cover 10 different special interest groups. 7 months is 28 weeks. We missed 2 months or 2 weeks due to a storm. It wiped out the electricity, and then the cable or the internet had an issue because one of the other lines was down. So for 2 weeks out of 28 weeks, that leaves 26 weeks that I've been coming on broadcasting about entrepreneurship and service in our communities. And from day one, I have been saying prepare your resume, prepare your business proposal. That's 26 weeks. Now let's back up. How about 3 or 4 years? I've been saying that in my content that I upload on a regular basis that involves improvisational instrumentals that were just made that day, images that were generated to fit that particular instrumental to give that message that day. And I get 3 or 4 likes and a couple of watches. In a span of 4 years, I've met some people in the assembly that I would spend the rest of my life with. And that is not going to change. I've experienced some situations where there's people that I wouldn't write them off from out of my life. However, just like I said yesterday, there are some people that are not going to see the same town called Yahweh Elohim is there that I'm going to see, because that's what I'm working towards. That's what I'm living towards. That's what I'm walking towards. My every fiber of my essence and being is on that. Anyone contrary to that, you're subject to see me dust my feet on your doormat and walk away. I'm going to leave your dust with you because I have to keep going. There are some people that are not mentioned in my list because some people do have a lot of people around them supporting them already. And it would be redundant for me to jump out right now and say, oh, I want to help them too. Well, they already have people in place. I'm looking for those who are saying, I need help now. And just like in Enoch, here am I. Just like in Joshua, here am I. Because I was called out for it. Oh, Don, can you help me help the people? Sure, you're about to go through some lifelong training. You're going to wind up teaching some people some stuff too. I just asked how I could help the people. Well, sure, yeah, you're about to find all of that out because there's a lot of things you can do. So we're going to put it all to action. You got one big head and 1,000 hats. Here you go. They tell you go and invest in certain things because it's trending and it's going to gain status and it's going to gain wealth, growth. They tell you to go certain places. What about the places that are a little more hard to find and are just as bountiful as whatever you can imagine? What if you go to a place where it's hard for a troll to get in? It's hard to maintain that type of rapport with people as a troll. Now, they will be found. However, it's on a completely different level because it's not you concentrating on 10 or 15 loved ones and then this troll comes along trying to bust up the party. No, trolls are not wanted. Kind of like when you walk into a shop and it says no dogs allowed. Some people keep pet trolls. Some people don't want those trolls around because they're trying to grow. Some people are tired of hearing about a president that's got more felonies than their next door neighbor. Some people are tired of hearing about the dollar market is crashing in whatever nation. So they have found other means of compiling finances outside of the market that they tell you exists. Because the same way that you can watch those markets fluctuate, you can also watch what's going on in the digital realm. We are in the age of information. We were in the age of technology. We have made it to the age of information because now we're using technology to transport information. And nowadays, information is currency. When you express information, there are people who are searching and questing for it who will readily pay you for it. When you actually promote the real standards of the kingdom of Yahweh Elohim, there are some people out there who are waiting to see it because they want to be able to do it. They want the real message so that they know what they're supposed to be following. There are people who contribute to what I'm doing on the social world simply because I come before you and say, in the name of Yahweh Elohim, through the guidance of Ravak HaKadesh, through the example of Yahashua HaMashiach, and then turn right around and say, Allahu Assalamu Alaikum, wa rahmatullahi, wa rahmabarakatuh, wa rahbarakatuh. There are people who show me support because I also show them both sides of the page. Here's the Bible, here's the Apocrypha, here's the Quran. Look how they line up. Instead of jumping up and down trying to cause some division where it shouldn't be there. There are people who support me for that. I've taken the time to become a part of an assembly because I didn't want to be standing alone. I was doing that activity before my first conversation with Kohelet. I informed him of my activities because I wanted him and the rest of the assembly to be involved with the things I had found. In the meantime, every time I posted up something, it was to let you know, hey, this is what's on my mind. I'm not doing this to get a bunch of hearts and likes. I'm not doing this to get a whole bunch of people to follow me. That's all garbage. I'm doing this because the message needs to go out there and people need to start acting accordingly. I'm not doing this for a fan club. I'm doing this because anybody who says they are a promise keeper needs to be out here keeping the promise instead of a bunch of talking. That's why nobody has faith in what's going on. It's because there's a lot of people talking and there's not a lot of activity. So the network that I've found pays you for your activity. YouTube's going to tell you got to generate 1,000 views on a video and you have to have at least 1 million people following you before they even start talking about they're going to monetize your account. Well, how about your account is monetized as soon as you open it up? Since YouTube doesn't want to pay you, you upload a video or a picture on YouTube and you take that link, you copy that link, and then you go over to the social world and you share the link. Hey, look, I made this video. By the way, you're also making that video inside of your own device. And if it's up to a certain length, you can actually upload it and share it directly to the social world. Now you have every right to claim it as yours and call it an NFT. It can be set for sale. Why am I telling you that? Because each of the pictures in my comic books can be sold on the market. There are people who are manga collectors and anime collectors. I don't have to print out a comic book and make sure that it's in Barnes and Noble. There are plenty of places I can set up storefront to sell my wares. That goes for images, audio, video, and text. The part they don't tell you about. The part that equates you to LLC without having to register with a bank. Because when you post up a picture that's emoting a message, you might have someone that you've already spoken with and said, hey, when I post up this picture, it's talking about this specific promise that I have made to perform a service. The person who buys this NFT will receive that product or service. I post up a picture for $1 because one person might buy that for $1 and then turn around and sell it for $2. When they sell it for $2, I'm getting a 5% cut from that price. The coin holders of my particular coin, those who hold 3PROJH coin, would get a 10% cut. Or I can opt it for only the people who own a 3P Roj NFT can get a percentage. And you can do the same with your own posting content. That's actually another way that you would generate supporters. When I log in, I see the activity. I see who's, they call them the whales, the ones who are the most influential. I see the whales activity and I see new people who have come in. I see people who have been there forever and still doing their thing. If I see something I like, I can go to that particular post, like it, repost it, give them a tip if I want to. But the main thing is I look at their message and then I go back and I generate a picture off of that message. And then I generate an improvised instrumental. And then I generate a 1-minute video. What would cost a client $60 because it's $1 per second. I'm passing them an NFT where they can always go back and see that I've declared this is my trade, this is what I do. At any given moment, a person could ask me to promote them. This is what I generated out of my own thoughts, not what you told me to put. I was able to do this just with my own know-how. Now, if you tell me you want things a certain way, I will do my best to make it that way. Like I said, you ask me to do a task, I'm going to go about it. And the more input that you give me, the more it's going to reflect your desires. I can't post anything about me if you don't tell me about you. Can't post anything about you if you don't tell me anything about your resume. You don't tell me about anything that's in your portfolio of anything that you've done for life accomplishments. I can't say anything about you. Now, me as flesh and blood, if I can sit here and tell you that, and you still don't have any answers, I want you to understand just how grave, pun intended, that is to you when you do cease to exist on this plane and you do go meet our creator. And our creator asks you, have you heard Al-Fatiha? Guess what? I haven't spoken it for today. Not in this live. I ran it through my brain earlier. Auzu billahi mina shaitan rajim. We seek the protection of our Father against shaitan and the evil ways while we travel along the divine path. We pray, we recite surah and psalms in order to become nearer and closer with our Father, our Creator, our source of sustenance and mercy. Let's recite Al-Fatiha. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Ar-Rahmanir-Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim ghayril maghdubi 'alaihim waladdallin. In the name of our Father, the most merciful, the most compassionate, Lord over all worlds, creator of our divine path, the Deen. We ask you to forgive us when we disobey or do as others have done to disappoint you before. We ask you to teach us to forgive others the way you forgive us. We thank you for the divine path. Amen. It is said when you pass away, each of us will have our own moment to speak with our Creator, and that's when we'll be asked, have you heard Al-Fatiha? Anyone who's been listening for the last 2 or 3 minutes, yes, you've heard it in Farsi tongue, and you've also heard it in English. It's the first surah of the Quran. It's the opening surah. You can go to Quran.com, Quran.com. That's Quran.com. There you will be able to see all of the different surah in consecutive order as they are published in the Quran. You'll be able to see it in Farsi tongue as it is written. You can also push the button to hear it spoken, and you can also read it in English. I welcome any of you to go and check it anytime. Surah Al-Fatiha is a pledge and oath saying, I will live by the standards of Yahweh Elohim. So what do I get Yahweh Elohim out of Allah? Allah, or Allahu, is the same as Elohim. It means Lord over all worlds. Yahweh is our creator. Abba is our father. You would say Rab or Rabbi. These are terms and meanings that go back and forth between the Farsi tongue of Persia and the tongue known as Hebrew, which comes from Avra or Eber, all the way back to the times of Adam. Some of the enunciations are different. However, the original terms mean the same, and they also outline the same standard. That's what brings us full circle with the whole ethics in entrepreneurship. It's because there's a certain ethical code. And if you go to Persia, what is now known as Iran, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, the Arabian Emirates, if you go to Iran, and you go to Tehran inside of Iran, and you ask around, they'll start telling you that, yes, there are some specific historical records that we keep that has a seal on it, says Basmallah, meaning in the name of our Father. We put that seal on any and everything that has to do with creed and code, historical objects, contracts, agreements, ways of following time, calendars, holy scriptures and scrolls, all are sealed with Basmallah. Historical records that date back to Constantinople, Timbuktu. Prophet Muhammad was a businessman. He was also a very just and noble and pious businessman. There's a reason why he was able to receive the message of that Surah Al-Fatiha. That was the first revelation to him. That was the first thing that he was told that he was going to have to tell the people. This is how we're supposed to be living instead of what's going on right now. And that's when the people started asking him, well, okay, well, if we're supposed to live that way, what kind of codes and rules are we supposed to be living by when these people are telling us these are the rules and you're telling me they're wrong? Code has always been here. The standard has always been here. Well, what is it? And he had to tell the people of Farsi about the codes of Avra. And the doubters in the kingdom of Yahavada tried to expose him as false. And in return, he exposed them as hypocrites. Because, yes, he was able to tell the stories. And the only way he would have been able to would have been to have contact with someone who was an authority of Yahweh Elohim's standards. People saw Muhammad conducting his business all the time. There was only one time when he'd be away from everybody. He'd be gone for 30 days in the 9th month of the year, gone studying, worshiping, fasting, and praying. Well, that's also when he received the message. A messenger came to him and told him, this is what you tell the people. And that's the same messenger that came every time to tell him, this is what you tell the people. It doesn't say a form that was wearing a nightgown and had wings. No, it says there was a human being, a man, standing to where you could see his silhouette against the sunset. A man named Jabriel. This man came from somewhere. He came from a group of people who knew the standards of Yahweh Elohim. There were people being very evil and wicked in the land. Where have we heard this before? One person was found that was actually trying to do right. So he was told, this is how we do. You go and spread this message, and then we can stop this evil. We can save this land. He didn't go and do what had already been lined out and they told him he could do. Prophet Muhammad came from the richest family in the region. And his message was, this rich family is doing the most evil in the region. He wasn't doing what was lined out for him to do. When he was going and fasting, that wasn't something that was prescribed. It was something that he had learned and picked up on and made it part of his life. That is not Ramadan. He was doing that before Ramadan had a name. Ramadan is part of a calendar that's called the Hijra calendar. That means the pilgrimage calendar. He was not living according to the pilgrimage calendar. It didn't exist. They tell you there's 4 holy months in the pilgrimage calendar. That stuff wasn't there when Muhammad was kicked out of Mecca and had to take the people to Medina because he was being ostracized. Not everybody in Mecca had access to Jabriel. They didn't even know who he was. They doubted he existed. However, they could not refute the fact that Prophet Muhammad could tell them stories about the family of Yehovah, the family of Yusuf, the lineage of Yehashua HaMashiach, the fact that there were two different Mariams who were daughters of Sharifs, and both of them were responsible for some messiahs. One was the sister of Messiah Musa, anointed one, leader. The other was the mother of Messiah Yehashua. If Muhammad did not know Jabriel, he wouldn't have known any of that. However, that's what's revealed in the Quran. That's the reason why it's considered a miracle. It's even a miracle standing now today because all of the people who say that they are Islam or they are Muslim are not following the standards in the Quran. Same way you hear about people saying they're Christian or they're Jewish or they're Hebrew or they're Catholic or they're this or they're that. Does not mean that they're following the divine path of Yahshua HaMashiach. Doesn't mean that they're doing the same thing that Elisha did. Doesn't mean they're doing the same thing as Daniel or Yusuf or Noah or Methuselah or Adam. They're just telling you they're going along with whatever the majority is talking about, and then they can give you a couple of good words out of it. All right, what's tabah from you, though? So that's the difference. What do you eat, sleep, and breathe compared to what do you parrot out? That's why I was chosen to be in the Quest program. I didn't just accept whatever it was that they wanted to tell us to know. I wanted to know the how and the why behind that. What made that something I need to know? Because I'm going to tell you what came up before all of that to make that something important and pertinent. That's part of my natural born gifts. I don't see that in everybody. It's not to say that a person can't focus in studies and get to that level regardless. It was something I was naturally born with. My uncle became a doctor. My mother became a principal in adult education. They were the babies of a family. Mom was the 13th child and he was the 12th. Family of sharecroppers. Every time I open my mouth, my family looks at me and takes about 4 or 5 steps backwards because I'm not saying any of the stuff that they grew up hearing. And then it really makes them do a backwards flip when I show them how it all actually matches. Because that's not what you're told from CNN or Fox News or Channel 11. It's not what you're told when you open up your newspaper or when you flip through the tabloids while you're standing in line at the grocery store. So you're not told any of this kind of stuff. That's because the real message of the truth and the righteous path, according to the standards of Yahweh Elohim, that message has to be delivered from the people who actually live it, who are the examples, not somebody that just says, oh, I know about it. You know it exists, but no, you're not intimate with it. You can't feel it because you don't live it. You can only tell me statistics about it. You can only tell me your outside observation about it. And you still wouldn't be able to tell someone how to have faith in something that is intangible. something that is not seen, something that you can't pick up with your hands, something that you can't just factor in and say, here it is, here's the product. Faith in the unseen, knowing that it will still produce sustenance. That goes beyond just running around talking about I'm gentle as a lamb and my Savior saved me and died for my sins. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. Our Messiah didn't come here to live for 33 years just to be crucified so that you can be forgiven for shirking your work. No, no. You can be punished just as severely whether you go commit the sin or you find out that you're not supposed to, and then you just double down and keep doing it. We all have certain iniquities. Got battles of my own. There's only been one person on record that we vouch for that was perfect. Even he had to go through certain extremities in his flesh and cry out. So no, you're not forgiven out of his torture. No. If that was the case, then there would be no reason to have hell because everybody would be forgiven. No, hell exists for the disobedient. Hell exists for those who have oppressed the righteous. Hell exists for those who ignored the standards of our Creator. That's why I laugh every time I say such and such platform doesn't like how I play with their toys because they're like Nimrod. I own this digital space and you must do as I say. Okay. Make the sun rise from the west. Make your system work without 0 1 0 1 0 1 1. I'll wait. We've been going for an hour and 45 minutes. We actually did start pretty much at the top of the hour. I think we were maybe 10 minutes behind this round today. We have spoken on cryptocurrency here and there. We spoke on Web3 because I've been talking about the social world. Everything that you do on Facebook and YouTube, TikTok, you can do inside of the social world. The difference is there are people there waiting to support you. When you go to Facebook and YouTube and TikTok and all those places, there's some trolls waiting to throw hindrances in your path. It's a big difference. See if I can find at least one or two songs for us to ride out on. Because actually, oh, there you are. I'm still in the middle of something. I felt that pull and had to just let go and speak. That's why these listening parties end up just me talking. Because I come in with an idea of what I want to talk about and then I let go. Because it's not what I want. I'm a vessel. There is the information that I've retained in my head from years of studying. However, when I'm relating to you right now, this is me telling you, okay, these are my past experiences. However, I'm compelled to tell you this because this is the way to walk. I could post up a video every now and then, every day, talking about it. However, no, no, no. We had to do this way so that there is no question about it. There is no going back and forth. There is no, well, maybe he meant this or maybe he meant that. No, I said what I said. And I stand on what I say. Bavaka Shalakati. I thank you for being here. I stand on what I say because it means something. Like I said before, I'm not doing this um, for a popularity contest. I blew the school staff's mind when they told me, we want you to be part of the student body council. And I looked at them and I said, I don't want any parts of that. But we have people that have already nominated you. You have a place. There's no part in my schedule to be part of the student body council. I didn't ask anybody to vote for me. I don't want to do it. I have enough trouble getting back and forth to school, let alone going to any of the school projects because of my parents' schedule and how they can transport me back and forth. I don't have a desire to be on school campus an hour before school starts just to sit up and have a meeting talking about what we do in school. I was already missing school because I would leave to go and do toil with my stepdad. He was running a business. It's called biomedical waste. We go pick up biomedical waste and take it to an incinerator for it to get burned. That's what I was doing from 16, 17 to 18 years old. Loading up biomedical waste in trailers and trucks and then unloading it so that other people could drop it off into giant incinerators. Driving all over the state. He'd wheel them out on dollies and boxes and buckets and things like that. I would weigh up the amount. We picked up X amount of weight from this client over here. Here's the invoice for it. You've been charged X amount for the amount of weight plus travel expenses and so on and so forth. That's what I was doing when I was 16. And then at other times when I just didn't feel like going to school, my parents didn't know it, but I was at home or out in the woods somewhere reading a book. They found out later because I told them. That's how my parents found out I was transferring schools because I told them I need you all to sign these papers. Since we're moving to the other side to another town, I'm going to be in a different school. Got all my paperwork set. Just need you to sign these documents. They tell you one option. There's always all kinds of things to explore. Oh, spoon, spoon, spoon. I used to have a spoon. There you are. Three in YouTube land. Hashem Habalahim, Shalom Barak. Alaikum Assalamu alaikum. Wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Father's peace, blessing, and mercy be upon you, your families, and your circles. That also goes to TikTok land. Thank you all for being here. Y'all know what time it is. Have you been having a sinking feeling? Like you're way low somewhere down there in the deep? Water, water, black cap for coffee. For those of you who've been experiencing that sunken feeling, there's a cure for that sunken feeling. There's a counteract. Calm your hashaya. Khazan ya hashraya. Come out of it. When you come out of it, revel, rejoice. When they run up to you crying about news of Babylon falling, you rejoice. Babylon was never meant to be permanent. Why are you letting it have a permanent stay in your life? When they tell you their system is falling apart and they ask you how you feel about it, hold your head up and say, I don't care. Because I'm too busy concerned about the kingdom of Yahweh Elohim. There's no room in my mind or my heart, in my body, in my soul. There is no room to be concerned about your corrupt system. Your corrupt system has treated me and my people poorly, terribly. The moment your corrupt system is gone is the moment that I know I will be seeing Yahweh Elohim around me. So I don't care. The sooner you're gone, the better. Yeah. Yahweh Ahava. Yahweh Ahava. Our creator is love. Ahaba Ahaba. Love is love. When you see someone in need, go reach out to them and help them. Don't wait for them to ask you. Don't wait for a thank you, because you're not doing it for any of that. You're doing it because you have pledged to be of service to Yahweh Elohim. That's ultimate compassion. Amitabha, Amitofo. That's compassion in both Japanese and Chinese. Akati, I see you. Vavakasha. Very welcome. Mucho me gusto. It is my pleasure to be able to come to you all and deliver this message every time. My head is banging right now like I've actually already drank some coffee because I was refilled with energy, being able to share with you because I know you are productive. My two special Akatis that I'm talking to right now, y'all know who you are. You're productive. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing. And when I see you, it brings energy to me because we're sharing a moment. Just like they say, when you got at least two talking about Yahweh Elohim, but he's going to be there. So I feel it. And I'm thankful for that because it's a rare feeling. You can go around all day, not find another one who sparks that in you. It's rare. I love you for it. Go out there and be the reason somebody else smiles. Go out there and do a tabah deed for someone else. A lawful, compassionate, according to the standards of righteousness, deed. This party's been brought to you by Hashem Yahweh Elohim, At Rabban Hakadesh, At Yashavai Hamashiach. May our Father's peace, blessings, and mercy be upon all of you, your families, and your circles. Until next time, be much love and respect.